Hello, this is Mr. Kimble here, and I'm going to present to you the science fair project and hopefully give you a little bit of an example that will explain the process that you need to go through to have a successful science fair project. This is Sarah and Eva. They've decided to work on a science fair project together, but they need to know where to start. They must start with a question. This seems to be the most difficult part. So they brainstorm a bunch of different questions. Why do frogs eat bugs? How do you start a fire? How can you build a volcano? Who's stronger, Superman or the Hulk? Where do desert animals find water? They went and talked to their teacher about their ideas. Their teacher said, how do you start a fire? Well, there's three ingredients that go into a fire, and that's something that you can just present. Why do frogs eat bugs? Well, that's a research report. You can look that up in the encyclopedia. Wikipedia will tell you that. How do you build a volcano? Well, that's just a demonstration. Who's stronger, Superman or the Hulk? That question, can we really answer that? I mean, they're both really make-believe characters. Where do desert animals find water? Now, that's a research report. That's something that you would find on the internet and in the encyclopedia. What you really need to do is to find and make an inference about science. Think about what you already know, see if it's true in other conditions. Then test your questions to prove your theory. You have to have questions that you can test. So when you go through this process, you've got to find something that you have a question about and put it to the test and come up with information from data, things that you test. So Sarah and Eva thought about some interesting science facts that they already know. Fire needs oxygen. Caterpillars change to butterflies. Exercise affects people's heart rate. Water can make metal rust. Magnets are stronger with electricity. Sarah and Eva thought about what they know. They learned about the circulatory system in class recently. They learned in class that heart rates change with exercise. Pulse rates change with exercise. Does our pulse change when it's hot outside? Well, people have five senses. They also learned in their class that heart rates change with heat. They learned something about how when your body gets warmer, you start to maybe sweat a little bit and your body exerts more energy to do so, and so your heart rate pumps a little stronger. And these girls already know that we have five senses. The one sense that your body is using with heat is the sense of touch or feel. So Sarah and Eva thought about what they know. Heat is something we feel. Might there be anything else that affects the heart? Something we maybe smell or hear or taste or see? Sight. What do we see the most? So their question here is, could our pulse rate change with something maybe we smell? Could our heart rate change with something we see? Does light affect heart rate? That seems like a difficult question to prove. So they went and they talked to their teacher. Does light affect heart rates? Well, what kind of light? Do you have any colors in mind? What you need to do now is make a theory. If you think that light can affect heart rates, you need to make a theory about what you think will happen. Then devise a test and test it. Sarah and Eva thought about it. Maybe we can test a few different light colors to see if there is an effect on heart rates. So they did some research. Now that the girls have their question, they need to do some research to find out some information about their topic. They look up information on the different colors of light. And they also looked up information about what affects heart rates. Different colors affect light, or different colors of light affect emotions. And our emotions can affect our pulse rate. They're finding some interesting information. They develop a hypothesis. This is their educated guess, and I stress educated guess because now they understand what they're talking about. They've done the research. So now they're going to make a guess. We think that red light will increase heart rates. Blue light is calming and red is exciting. They did their research. They know that blue is calming and red is exciting. So if it's calming, could that possibly reduce a heart rate? If red is exciting, could that increase a heart rate? They have their hypothesis. They went back to their teacher to ask for some advice. We think red light will increase heart rates. That's a great hypothesis. Now, design an experiment to test that. So they designed an experiment. We're going to shine red light, measure their pulse, then we'll shine blue light and measure their pulse. Their experiment is a little bit more in depth than that. They also have to come up with a control. Now, what is a control? A control is something that we present that is normal. So in this case, normal light would be the normal white light that we experience from the lights up above you right now, or the light that we get outside. So they ask themselves, but how do we know if the changes in light really affect pulse? We'd better shine white light too, they say. So their experiment. They test a lot of people. You can't just go to two people and test them and find out if, red light or blue light is affecting their pulse. They had to test a lot of people. So they test a person using red light, shine red light on them, and measure their pulse. They shine white light on them, measure their pulse. They shine blue light on them, measure their pulse. They shine white light on them and measure their pulse. Is there a difference? Is there a change? They record the numbers, and that's all they do. They record the numbers. They got data from those numbers, and they had results from those numbers. After testing a large number of people, they came up with this fact. Red light speeds up pulse by 5 beats per minute. Now, they had to do a lot of testing to actually find that out. They had to test a lot of people, and they had to go back and forth, and there were a lot of mistakes that they made, but they tested a lot of people, and they have data to prove that. Once they found their data, they put it into a graph like you see right over here. They made a graph of their data to show the numbers and how many people they tested, and what their pulse was after looking at the white light, what their pulse was after looking at the blue light, and what their pulse was after looking at the white light again. And they did see changes in multiple people. During this whole experiment, they had to keep a journal. They kept a journal from the very beginning, from the time that they developed their first questions. All those questions that they had, all that brainstorming, they wrote it down. All their scientific data as they tested people, they wrote it down. When they went to go talk to their teacher, they wrote down the advice that he gave them. They took some pictures along the way of some ideas that they had. They included those photographs inside there. Every bit of their thinking went into that journal. All their conversations went into that journal. They kept their journal where they wrote all their questions, all their ideas, all their research notes, all their pictures, their numbers, experiments, and then they jumped into their report. They needed the report. They typed their report, including information about their questions, their hypothesis. their experiment, their data, their findings, their conclusion, and further considerations. At that point, they made a science board. The science board was used to display data, the information. The numbers are probably the most important part of your science board if it's something that you want to win. They display tables and graphs. They had a bar comparison. They could have used a pie comparison. Here's a diagram of the science board. Here's a diagram of the science board format that you are actually going to be given. Here are the instructions that you're going to be given for your science board that you've already been given. And here is everything that you need to help you do your science fair project. It is on this digital dashboard. You can come over here and click on the instructions for the science fair. Come over here and click on instructions for the engineering fair. Come over here to click on instructions for the Rube Goldberg project. Here's a video on engineering. There's a video on the Rube Goldberg project that'll explain everything to you. There's the video that you're watching right now. There's other information. There's the slides here. Down below this, there's websites that you can go to research your project, to find out which project you want to do. This presentation, the purpose of this presentation ultimately is to help you to understand how you can refine your ideas, how you can find an idea, because that ultimately is the most difficult part. So I would encourage you to find something, find questions, write them down, write down things that you know, and try to make an inference about them. Try to find something that you can test. When you do your science fair project, you have to have something that you can test. You have to have an experiment that you can run. It cannot just be a demonstration. It cannot just be a collection of shells or a volcano that you build. You're not trying to show us how to make a fire, and you're not trying to show us how to make electricity from a lemon. So stick to projects that you can test. And I want to point out one other thing about this project that the girls did. They tested sight. Does light affect the way you see things? We already know that heat affects it. I mean, your pulse. We already know that heat affects your pulse. They tested it and found that the colors blue and red can affect your pulse. And by the way, that is true. That is a true science experiment that somebody did, and I just used some of the pertinent details of it. But are there other senses that you could test? Can you use your 5 senses to test other types of projects, other types of science? Think about it. The most difficult part of the science project is coming up with a topic. I hope this helped. Have fun with your science project.